Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Miraba, everyone. My name is Gouh, and I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon. I think I'll just start by sharing that I'll probably be the funniest sounding presenter. Maybe not the funniest, but the funniest sounding. I spent the first part of my life in the U.S. trying not to sound American. Then the next 15 years in London trying to sound British. And the last year I've spent in Istanbul trying to learn Turkish, and I'm failing miserably. I know 2 words, you've already heard one of them, but hopefully I'll be somewhat decipherable. So the title is probably a bit peculiar, making this invisible visible, and what if you could see what was not really there? Now the event organizers challenged me and said, what kind of title is that? It sounds a bit metaphysical. It sounds like a horror movie. What if you could see what really was there? And in reality, I said, well, you got a point there. Let me see if I can just take a moment to kind of clarify what the theme of this discussion is. And that is, don't let the invisible man or woman make you a victim. Don't be a victim of the invisible man or woman. And what I mean by that, in your businesses, on your digitally enabled channels, you have customers who are trying to do things on your website. They're trying to do things from their smartphone. They're trying to do things in your call center branch and stores, and you don't even know they're there. You don't even know they've tried. So they've been invisible. And you've been the victim, they've been the victim, because they wanted your stuff and you wanted them to have it. So that's kind of the theme of what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes. So in the beginning, a lot was invisible. It was mostly water and just a little bit of land. And in the beginning, there was no such thing as a Wi-Fi, internet, or a mobile phone, let alone a smartphone. But there were ways of understanding, ancient ways of understanding what was going on other places when you weren't there. Now, one of those techniques was the carrier pigeon. And the carrier pigeon would communicate long distances. And I have this sort of Walter Mitty alternative life. I hope IBM doesn't find out. But I present on television for historical documentaries for things like the Discovery Channel and National Geographic. And I was recently, just about a month ago, in Delphi, Greece, doing a documentary on oracles of the dead. Now raise your hand if any of you thought when you came to Web 3.0 you'd be hearing about oracles of the dead. Anyone? Okay, good. So it's this concept that kings and rulers and wealthy people would go to Delphi, Greece, and they would spend a week there with the priest and the priestesses before they had their future told, assisted by their ancestors, the spirits of their ancestors. So a very formal interview process where, guess what? The priest would take an entire week to ask them questions. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What they're shooting for is an accurate prediction, a happy customer, a really good customer experience. Part of that is when they learned about what these people really wanted to know, they would dispatch the carrier pigeons to find the answer. So come the day of your prophecy, they already know the answers of what you want to hear, or how that battle is really ended up or is going on. So carrier pigeons were one of the first sorts of technology to let us know what's going on elsewhere when we're not there. Another one is the printing press. And, we have hieroglyphics, we have cuneiform, all the lovely Hittite text, really mass production of taking that invisible spoken word and making it visible was around the 15th century. And that just totally changed everything about our lives and everything about our world. We evolved. We evolved to the camera. which has ancient roots with the camera obscura, but really around 1800 is when the first camera is introduced. And once again, what does it do? It takes the invisible and makes it visible. It takes that thing that you see for an instant and makes it eternal and allows us to reflect on it, to learn from it, to understand more about ourselves. An extension of that is motion pictures. So motion pictures such as Charlie Chaplin, the classic It's a Wonderful Life. These sorts of early images redefined how we can reflect on our own lives and learn by watching the lives of others. So it's such a part of our life. It'd be hard to imagine life without film. And this evolved to what was at first regarded as a bit of a big brother kind of technology, CCTV, but we've all kind of gotten used to this. And I think we all feel pretty secure in the fact that our homes, our businesses, places we really value, we know what the behavior is there when we're not there. And if something goes wrong there, we're informed. And if something bad happens there, we know who those people were. So CCTV, again, took another logical step in how we go about understanding behavior when we're not there. And I'm not sure if this has been adopted in Turkey. I'm sure it has. I know the US and UK are big proponents of having cameras in the crib, not just audio, but video. So now you can go downstairs. You can even go to your neighbors if you wanted to and know what the behavior of your loved ones is, your children, when you're not there. Because you can see it, you can hear it, you can understand it. So, I always use a lot of sports analogies, forgive me, but when I moved from the US to London, I lived right down the street from Chelsea, so I decided that, you need to support your local team, so I supported Chelsea. And then when I moved to Istanbul, I was supposed to be in the Conrad Hotel for a couple of weeks, and I ended up there for 4 months. It was great. But I chose my team while I was there, so guess who that is if I'm choosing locally? Well, of course, it's going to be the Black Eagles. Everyone said you chose the wrong team. Thank you. I feel great about the Black Eagles. But, so the Black Eagles, when they play, and God forbid they lose, so say they lost 3-0. And all they knew was, we lost 3-0 and time of possession, well, we had 25%, the ball 25% of the time. Okay, that's the what. That's that's useful. That's the analytics. Gotta have it. But why did they lose 3-0? That's the question. So now athletes of all kinds, not just my Black Eagles, but my baseball team last night, favorite player, no hits at 5 at-bats. So that's the what. He'll look at that and say, I was 0 for 5. Don't know why, but he will know why when he watches the game film and sees that his stance was too open and he was dropping his right shoulder. So you have to watch the game film to understand, Bishitas, why you lost 3-0. So now, finally, thanks to machines, we can make a movie of every one of your customers. Every single thing they do, everything they type, every place they go, everything they click on. And as we'll see, this is not really Big Brother-ish because they're on your website or in your call center or in your branch because they want what you have. And they're struggling, and you may not know it. So now we can create pictures, movies of every customer journey, then tell you which ones to look at based upon where we have observed that they're struggling. They've tried to process multiple times, or they spend too much time on a page, that sort of thing. So this is really, really powerful. And in Istanbul, there's big businesses and little businesses using this technology. One of them just came to me and said, our first week of Go Live, we found $102 million of annual lost revenue. Would you like us to show you why and how we've uncovered that? Yes, please. So they have a product they always thought should be a good seller. And it sells okay, but not very good at all, actually. And the analytics said everything's fine, all indicators are green, carry on. There's no errors. But by filming the journeys, they were able to see it. The CAPTCHA technology, where you type to prove you're not a robot, was blocking out over 90% of the people from entering the website, entering that process. So the gateway to their business was closed. Another customer in Istanbul has a 5-step process for acquiring a product. Really straightforward. But when customers were getting to step 5, which is, we're done now, I'm hitting submit, I want this, they were firing off a message that said, are you really sure this is for you? Are you really sure you want this? And of course, everyone went, ugh, actually, no, I'm not sure, thanks, bye. So no errors, but by understanding the behavior, I mean, if you could watch every customer, then you would understand these things, but you're not there. So what's the behavior of your customers, and why are they behaving the way they are? And that you understand by looking at the game film. So what would you do differently if you knew where customers were spending their time on your web pages? What were they seeing? What were they not seeing? What if you could see not just where they're clicking, because that's the what, right? That's the what. But who has been clicking there? What if you could hover over any of those hotspots and produce all the contact details of all the people who clicked there? What would you do differently? And what if you could see which links and images are most profitable? What are people really clicking on? What are they really doing? And of course, some of the more basic things, but still really important. How much time are they spending on all my tabs in my forums? Where are they abandoning? And who is abandoning? Can I please have their contact details so I can reach out to them, reclaim that revenue? And what if we could do this on mobiles and tablets? What if you could say, show me all the customers who did a page impression but didn't look at that special offer? Show me all the customers who swiped but didn't go to the next step. How useful might that be? So just a couple examples. There's a bank I worked with in the UK. Online mortgages is a real big product there. And if you get to step 4, it means you want that mortgage. You wouldn't be in step 4 if you were just getting a price. You're there to complete. If you get to step 4 and you're there too long, or you don't go to the next step at all, then they take your movie and they pass it to an outbound team who calls you up because they've already asked for your phone number and you haven't authenticated, but you can grab that phone number. And they ring you and say, I see you've struggled. How can we help you? And you can see the ROI is huge just from reclaiming 1 or 2 lost customers a day. And just other examples of turning the invisible visible. A retailer in the US who went away on a bank holiday weekend and sent out a special offer, 40% off anything you buy online, and they happened to sell art. They came back on the Tuesday, 0 conversions. How could that be? All indicators were green, there were no errors, everything in the reports looked great, but they looked at some of the movies and the coupon wasn't turned on. And this is an example, this is the last example, but it's something we see a lot of. This happens to be a telco, but I've seen it here in Istanbul. Whenever you ask your customers for this or that, sometimes that's problematic, because they're a good corporate citizen. So in this case, the telco was asking, give us your date of birth or social security number. 40% did both. They never expected both. Sent it back to the home page in an endless loop. No errors, but conversions weren't very good. Online sales were down. So it's all about kind of trying to break through this, I guess at best, partial view and experience your customers by watching their game film and understanding fully what it is they're doing and what it is they're not doing. And in the process, you really want to go from this, and this is kind of how I look when I'm using my IBM systems. I shouldn't say that, don't record that. To this. I mean, we've all been there, but how many of us have been here? I'm here every day. Very seldom am I there. I want to be there. So I want to wrap up by talking a little bit more about where I'm from, and that's Chicago. And Chicago is famous for these guys. We don't have an ancient history. This is our ancient history. Gangsters. And we're incredibly embarrassed about it. Now, if you came to Chicago, I could take you to the Biograph Theater and say, there is the seat where Dillinger was shot. I can take you to the wall and say, here's where the St. Valentine's Day massacre occurred. I can say, let's go down to the south part of town. I'll show you where Al Capone lived. There's no blue plaques. People want to just sweep it under the carpet because it was embarrassing. But my point is, we'd like to think that we live in a day and age where there are no longer gangsters. I mean, these gangsters, what did they do? They didn't care what your business was. If you were a shop, a retail store, they were going to take your money. If you were a bank, they were definitely going to take your money. Sometimes you'd see them, sometimes they were invisible. But gangsters were the people who took your money that you deserved, and they just didn't care. So, you'd like to think we live in a world without gangsters. I'm sorry to tell you that we still have gangsters among us. Those gangsters are invisible usability issues that are costing your businesses millions annually, and you don't even know it because they're invisible. So thank you very much for your time. To check you.